Hello there! Do you want to make your own webcomic? Can you draw? Do you have a story to tell? Well, you're in luck! Buckle up, Buttercup, and cancel that Adobe subscription, because today we're going to use open source software to make webcomics. I will be linking all the resources in the description below. These include software and fonts, including where to download free fonts. Also note that the title talks about how I draw webcomics, with my newest comic, A+ Magic in particular. I used Manga Studio 5 for my old webcomic. Man, those were the days. If you were like me back then and wanted to learn how to use Krita instead to make webcomics, you've come to the right place. Step 1. Download the software and fonts. I have never, ever tried GIMP to make comics. And there are a lot of good features in Krita for comic making that I will mention here. Comic Manager, so that you can easily load comic pages and add new ones. Templates that you can either use or make yourself. Raster and vector layers so that you can easily edit your panels and bubbles. CMYK so that you can use print colors. Adjustable resolution. 300 dpi minimum required for webcomic making in case you want to print in the future. And export advanced, so you can adhere to the rules of Tapas, Webtoon, or wherever you want to publish your comics. Of course, I can't emphasize enough the importance of layers and brushes. But if you want to use tones instead of colors, there are those as well, built into the program. When I make my webcomics, I don't just use Krita. I have a hard time drawing backgrounds, and fortunately, I found a way to make that easier with Blockbench. Blockbench is a low poly model maker, and it can also be used to make Minecraft mods. You can either trace over the model screenshots, like I did with a few pages in chapter 1 of the comic, or you can use a certain method that I have been using in later comic pages. When it comes to fonts, there are free options out there, but check the licensing for the fonts that you find. They might have to have you link to their license or some other thing. If you don't want to do that, look for public domain fonts. While I use Kaori Gel for my videos, and Seto and Hayu are good permissible free fonts as well, especially if you want to make a comic in Japanese and English, I use Halogen for my webcomic. If you're interested in more fonts, I linked all the mentioned fonts in the description below. Step 2. Get your template ready. You can use a template already set in place, which is completely okay. Or you can make your own. I can show you how I created the template for my webcomic. For simplicity's sake, instead of using my usual templates, which is based on the A4 300 dpi image size, I'll scale it to what I typically export my Tapas files as, 940 by 1330, and go from there. I then make sure the grid is on, the guides are where they need to be, which is about 100 pixels away from each side of the page, and then we can save as templates. I didn't record any of this because this one and the next step are both done on a tablet PC. Step 3. Sketch time. I didn't record the sketch process because, like I said, I used my tablet PC to draw it. However, what I can show you is the process of the first panel, the library. I used simple shapes like cubes and planes, painted outlines where the edge detection might not work, and take a shot of the model itself instead of print screen. Step 4. Letters! This is where the text tool and a layer specifically for the text is used. It's not the most perfect means to write, but it's the default lettering method. I typically use 10-point font for letter size, and like I said before, I use Halogen. Step 5. Inking. When I ink my VTuber avatar, I use a basic 5 size default. However, when I ink comics, I use Ink 3G pen. It makes getting those fine details like the bow and the school uniform a lot easier. I also have been using a stabilizer recently, as I feel that can make things look nicer. I also copy and paste any angles from my 3D models, use the grayscale filter and edge detection filter, just make sure the apply results to alpha channel is checked, then lock the layer, get a different brush, crank up the size, and go ham. Step 6. Tones. If this was a tutorial, I would say color, or use gray colors, or maybe make your line width more dynamic, or whatever you want to do here. You can do what you want. Don't tell me what to do at this part. Not like this is a tutorial or anything. The tones and patterns are able to be seen in the Patterns Docker. Experiment with the Fill Bucket tool in a separate layer from your inking. Step 7. Balloons? Bubbles? What are they called again? In between the panels and letters layers, make a new vector layer. I have a layer style and the way to make bubbles, balloons, whatever these things are. Have a stroke outside all of the shapes, make the shapes white, and use the polygon tool to make the tail. These are all how I personally make the speech bubbles. Step 8. Export. Saving as is not enough in a typical comic process. I want to make it small for Tapas because Tapas doesn't want to resize it themselves. Don't worry, the requirements are easy. Export Advanced, unlike normal export, allows you to resize and make a new file without messing with the .kra file you were creating. The width and height for the Tapas friendly version both get sized down so it can look readable. And that's it. My comic page is done. I can upload it to my comic page, Tapas, and Webtoon. If this was part of an actual chapter, I would have added the page to the Comic Manager project as well. But as of right now, the full page is on Tapas and Webtoon and my website I made with the help of Comic Fury. And that's all from me. Thanks for watching, stay safe, have a very good rest of your day, and if you want to make a comic yourself, check all the software I mentioned in this video, as well as my comic, in the description below. Bye!